Hi, Karissa. This is Karissa Kruse, president of the Sonoma County Winegrowers. I know you've been in touch with your members from the very first days of the fire, and I want to tell you about an experience I had a little earlier this summer. I was able to go to a great event up at the Paradise Ridge Winery. It was on the hill near the Fountain Grove area. The winery was chock full of beautiful outdoor, site-specific art. A tasting room up there, of course, and some other facilities. What's the word on the Paradise Ridge Winery today?
Yeah, so I was actually up there last week with Renee Bick, who's one of the owners, one of the family members, and walked around. And, the production facility was devastated, as well as their tasting room. Amazingly, you can still see a lot of their sculptures. They're in good shape. And the vineyards were in great shape, untouched, really, which is one of the, I would say, amazing stories coming out of what is a pretty devastating time up here, is that the vineyards have been acting as this natural fire break. So we're seeing some damage in the vine rows, but not actually losing the vines themselves, which we know is a much longer investment and return in terms of affecting our wine country here.
Right. I did see an article about that last week, and I wanted to make sure that was accurate information about the fire breaks that the wine and the grapes produce. Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, sure. So, vines are living things. They're, they have a lot of moisture this time of the year because we're kind of at the heart of our harvest time season. And so what happens is when the fires, what we've seen happen at least, and we haven't had all reports in yet, so we might hear of something that, veers off course, but is that the fire would go in if it did affect a vineyard and go through the row, but really just burn what is the very dried cover crop that is typically planted in spring. So, every spring we plant clover or mustard or vetch, these these great plants that actually add nutrients back into the soil that help the vines grow and mature throughout the season. And right now, without the rains, they're incredibly dry. So that's what's really burning. And then you see, in some cases, some leaves are burned, but we're about to lose them anyway. As the vines would go dormant for the season. And so we're not actually seeing vine damage, which is, so... Again, if there's a silver lining right now in this whole situation, at least for the wine industry, is that, vine health seems to be good. And because of that, they've slowed down fires, they've protected structures, they've protected homes and people in homes all around our county, which has been, a really great story coming out of this.
What varieties and what percent of the grapes had been harvested before last Sunday and Monday?
Yeah, so, I'm sure many folks out there remember this heat spike we had over Labor Day weekend, which I'm sure you can imagine my farmers grumbled a lot about, 115 degrees, unprecedented temperatures. But, fortunately now what that did for us back then is it really expedited our harvest. So all of a sudden, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay especially, all of those two varieties became ripe very quickly. We had growers working 100-hour weeks, crews working overnight, wineries open working overnight and through the day, multiple shifts, processing those grapes. And so when the fires hit, we were actually well over 90% of our way through harvest, which benchmarking that against maybe a typical year, we'd be more like 75%. So if there was a time to have that early grumbling and have worked really hard hours to ensure a fantastic 2017 vintage, we got very lucky. And, the 10% that was left on the vines, I believe about 5% of that has come in. Not all of our vineyards were affected or in even evacuation zones. We're a very large county. We have, 60,000 acres of vines out of the 1 million acres of Sonoma County, and they're all over, some on the coast, Alexander Valley, Petaluma. And so we did have, some of our farmers where it was safe and appropriate still harvesting last week when in unaffected areas. So.
Now, one of the things I'd like to talk about before we go on to more information about the wineries and the owners and so forth are the workers. I'm sure there's been a lot of attention paid to make sure that the workers are safe if they're going back out in the fields. Tell me a little bit about that, how you've been assuring that the workers are safe.
Absolutely. I mean, our grape growers, just like everyone, follow, what's been going on with our air quality and working really closely with our ag commissioner's office on, getting, if there is masks or is that appropriate use, doing some harvest during the middle of the night where things might be clearer. And certainly if there was ever a question of safety, the harvest didn't happen. And I think what, folks may not realize is that these vineyard owners and the vineyard managers, it's not just workforce that goes out in the vineyards. It's those owners are out in the vineyards too. So this isn't about putting other people, in harm's way. It's about all of us being in it together. So certainly there wasn't, unnecessary risk taken. The vineyards that I heard were being harvested were closer to the coast where you weren't seeing the impact, some in Russian River Valley, day 4, day 5 when things had sort of moved in a different direction and, depending on wind and all of those things. But, folks have asked what's been the biggest impact to the wine community. And it's frankly our workforce losing homes. That's going to be the big story. I mean, we've heard this called the urban fire. And I think, we have about 8,800 workers and vineyards around our county. And, if you just do straight math, because we're still learning, and some people don't even know who have homes still, right? We're still in some areas you can't get back into. If you do straight math, about 5% of our county has lost their home. And so that would mean for us, if that, math follows, we'd have probably about 300 plus of our workforce, whether they owned or rented, without our home right now.
Is there anything that the wine industry is doing specifically to help those workers?
Yeah, so, I also, my other role, we all wear multiple hats, so I do too. I run the Sonoma County Grape Growers Foundation, and we actually had an emergency board meeting yesterday, and in partnership with the Sonoma County Farm Bureau, so kind of now talking all agriculture in our county, we launched a fund specifically to support ag employees and their families, really bridge to get back into households. So what we mean by that is supporting, first and last month's rent, getting connected to utilities. Folks, I lost my house, so I know I'm without sheets. I'm without,
wait a minute. You're burying the lead here. And please, I'm sorry that I didn't ask you that first. Tell me, let's take a break and tell me about your personal situation.
No, so I live in Fountain Grove.
Okay.
Up at the top of the hill. And so got the knock on my door about 2:30 a.m. You could look out. Fires were coming over the hill. And as we got in the car, realized they were also coming up Fountain Grove. So I evacuated and then from Grayton in a vineyard watched Fountain Grove burn, unfortunately. So I managed to get back in and see what was left on Tuesday. I was with a reporter from CNN who asked if he could share my personal story of me seeing my house. I was like, are you going to get me in to see my home? Let's do this. So, you feel such a need to actually see it to make it real. So I think I'm in that way very lucky because I know there are a lot of people that haven't gotten a chance to see their house yet. And I don't think you can start healing until you've actually just taken a pause moment and just acknowledged that something was lost. But you walk through it, and when you see the devastation around Fountain Grove and those areas, you just feel so lucky to be safe and alive, and I'm here and get to, talk about it another day. And so that's absolutely all that matters.
Okay, I interrupted you and you were talking about how the foundation is helping workers.
Yeah, so I know the story, right, of what you need. So what the other thing the foundation, so we're looking at, it's so hard, you lose everything, and, it's just those basic things that you don't really, do you have plates? Do you have glasses? Do you have sheets? Do you have towels? These soap. So creating this specific fund to support our ag employees that were affected by the fire and really helping them get back into a house. I mean, long term, if we raised enough money, we would look at, can we do something more in terms of building or support? But clearly right now it's about how do we get folks stable and their families stable and safe. And so it's the Sonoma County Grape Growers Foundation. Our website is scggf.org. You can just type in Sonoma County Grape Growers Foundation and you'll get there. And we yesterday, our board committed with the Sonoma County Farm Bureau to do this fund, and was really so excited. John Jordan Foundation, Jordan Winery immediately donated $25,000. American Ag Credit donated $25,000. So we were able to start this morning with $50,000, which we know will go a long way to support. And we've been, taking, and we'll continue to take donations for that.
Sure, and I know some of your neighbors in the wine business, the Gallows, have chipped in a few dollars.
Absolutely, Gallows, and Jackson Family. The one thing that is so amazing. I mean, we talk a lot about structures that burned and, the vineyards and what's going on, but the thing, and we have lost some lives, so I never want to lose sight of that. But the spirit of Sonoma, the heart of Sonoma is the people. And, those folks, the community is really coming together. And I'm sure you've seen it. You're talking to people all the time that are out there. And I've seen it, firsthand. I mean, the day after I lost my home, I'm in Safeway and people are hugging you. And I'm like, I don't know. But, and then you're like, I don't know if I want to be hugged right now. But that feels good, in Target store. And, just everywhere you go, there's just such, there's a human spirit, right? And it's so unfortunate that we have this fire that did that. But I think that human spirit is always run through the heart of Sonoma County. And so I think you're just, maybe folks are talking about it a little bit more right now.
Right. Now, when people try to lighten things up a little bit, they talk about, the 17 will be a smoky vintage.
Yeah.
Tell me about what the winemakers are saying about whether any of the smoke or any of the other things will affect the grapes or the winemaking in the area.
Yeah, smoke taint, that interesting word, right? Or
Smoke
concept.
taint, you
Yeah,
said? Okay.
so smoke taint. What we know is that the smoke taint is not affecting the grapes that are still out there. It is very late in the season. If this fire had occurred in June, July, August, the grapes are much more susceptible to that sort of influence. It's October. We have some Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah out there. Those are thick-skinned, hardy grapes. And we're just too late in the vintage. So you might. In some cases, if vineyards are really close to the fires, you might have some ash. We all probably saw for moments what looked like rain out there, which was, just the repercussions of the fires. And so, you wash the grapes, you take them into the winery. And, reports that we've heard from the grapes that have been delivered around our county is that, the grapes taste great. They're fine. The biggest issue right now are where there were wineries or vineyards that were really in the heart. You look at around Highway 12, that Sonoma Valley area, where folks just couldn't get access to the vineyards or the wineries for a couple of days because the fires were really, not contained and it wasn't safe. And so in those cases, depending on, loss of power or generators, what the situation was, there might be a little bit of wine that was at risk. But most of the wine should have been in barrel. Like we said, the Chardonnays, the Pinot Noirs, which are 60% of our county's grapes in production, well taken care of before the fire. So, I think we'll hear some stories, and there's always going to be one or two outliers for sure because this damage was so, diverse and fast and hard to even navigate. But we know for, on the most part, the 2017 vintage is still going to be great. It'll be unforgettable. There's no doubt it will be an unforgettable vintage here in Sonoma County, I think for everyone, but it's still going to be excellent quality wine. And I know, that our growers and our vintners, they're not, if there is any question, that will be, grapes and wine that aren't used because, safety and brand and what Sonoma County means on a bottle, and those standards that we've, built and worked so hard for are going to maintain, we'll maintain those.
What are you hearing from your members about insurance? Are the insurance folks out there in the fields helping them? Do they have to come in and talk to them? And do people feel like they're going to be made whole once they apply for insurance?
Yeah, we haven't heard much about it in terms of the vineyard yet because, again, the damage that we've heard for the most part in the vineyards has been stuff that would be, the cover crop will be tilled in and new cover crop next year, leaves fall off. So when it comes to the wineries, I haven't been a part of those discussions yet, but I'm sure, they're ongoing. We do know our ag commissioner, Tony Linegar, he's been just working his butt off for everyone. He's an amazing guy. He's been kind of trying to assess and work with growers, trying to get a, assessment of, because it's not just, vineyards. We have dairies, we have ranchers, a lot of ag in our county, a lot of diversified ag in our county, apples. So I know he's trying to get an understanding of kind of the extent of the damage so he can help our farmers navigate the insurance.
Sure. And now in numbers, in terms of wineries destroyed or burned, what numbers do you have right now?
I don't have good numbers. I'm following the news like most people, which, I hate to report on another reporter's information. So you kind of get caught a little bit. We're hearing of structures, not necessarily wineries, especially in that Highway 12 corridor. Our friends at Beltane Ranch, I know they lost like their sheep barn and they lost some of their structures, not everything. I just spoke to someone from Kenwood yesterday, and they had some structures with a little damage, but not, you're losing fences, you're, losing some of your shrubs, anything that was sort of quick burning. We're not hearing, besides Paradise Ridge, I haven't, and again, I think there's still going to be some stories that come in from Highway 12. So don't know yet. But we haven't heard besides Paradise Ridge of really that the tasting room destroyed, the wine production destroyed. So kind of still a little bit of wait and see on that.
Sure. Now, part of the income from wineries comes from tourists.
Absolutely.
And this would have been the height of the tourist season, the harvest. People want to be there. They want to see the grapes being crushed, and they want to see the grapes coming in and all of that. Is there any estimate yet of what might have been lost in terms of tourist income? And are you factoring that in when someone goes to FEMA or tries to be made whole after this event?
Yeah, we're again, that's another sort of thing. I mean, we lost 2 hotels at the bottom of Fountain Grove, which, had a lot of, we're booked out. I mean, it's hard to get a hotel reservation in Sonoma County in October. And so, What was interesting though, and what is I think the worst case scenario for Sonoma County long term is I happened to be at Farmhouse last week. They were open for business. They weren't in an affected area. You could reach them via 101. And they were saying they were starting to get cancellations for, next month and months out. And then I hear from friends around the country who are like, how do we support Sonoma County? And I'm sort of like, you have to balance. It's such a tricky time, right? We're still in the heart of, are we starting recovery? We still have folks that very much feel like they're in the, heat of evacuation still and not having been back to their homes. And so these next couple of weeks, as we start to sort of really move forward, we do invite people, stick with us, keep checking back with us. SonomaCounty.com, which is the Sonoma County tourism website. They're working on continuing to keep up to date on, what hotels, what restaurants, what wineries are open. So certainly check, to make sure your favorites are open before you come. But we would just ask that people, continue to come visit us. Let us rebuild for the next couple of weeks, but then, keep your reservations. Certainly don't cancel a wedding in June. It's going to be beautiful here. We'll help you celebrate just like we would. We're really good at hospitality and we enjoy doing that. And part of all of us rebuilding is being able to get back to doing the things we love, right? So, we all do this job because we love the farming or we love the winemaking or we love the entertaining or the hosting. And so part of us becoming whole is being able to get back to doing what we love and kind of getting back to a new normal in Sonoma County. And so, we invite people to do that. And more importantly, if you don't want to come visit us, I'm sure there's a wine bar, a wine store, a grocery store in your area that has Sonoma County wine. Go buy a bottle, open it up, drink a couple glasses, support us from home, sip for Sonoma. You can still, again, that drives folks right back. That's money back into our economy. 1 in 4 jobs here are connected to the wine industry and tourism and grape growing. And that is money that will come back to these families to help us rebuild. So you can feel even better about drinking your favorite bottle of Sonoma County wine tonight because you're helping us rebuild Sonoma County.
All right, that seems like a great place to end. Karissa Kruse, again, excuse me for not asking the personal questions first.
No worries.
Thank you for joining us in the midst of what's probably a very, very busy time for you.
It is. Thank you for having me. It's great to be able to sort of talk and share the story of what's going on. We appreciate that.
All right, Karissa Kruse, president of Sonoma County Winegrowers. Thanks.
Thank you.